Good morning. We are at another Monday morning. People coming back from their 4th of July holidays and back into some routines of work and play, and school is out. And I'm reading the July issue of Mind, Mood, and Memory, and I've got to probably put this one up as best ever. The points that are made in this particular article, July 2024, Mind, Mood, and Memory, probably as good an issue or newsletter as they've ever put together. It has just got so much in it. I've decided I'm going to take this apart in 3 sessions and maybe even into next week. There's just so many good things. So, for example, a study suggests conversations are key to cognitive cognition, and they talk about even the internet and ways to go in doing that. Dispelling the 5 common myths about depression and mood disorders. Well, that was interesting. That was a series of different thoughts that it provoked. What is meant by normal brain aging? It's important to recognize the difference between typical and abnormal changes in memory and cognition. And then we come along here on the cover, learn to manage the many risk factors that lead to accelerated brain aging. And then reminders and incentives go a long way to helping keep you physically active. I mean, it was just one article after another. I actually shared this with Evelyn during our dinner conversations. It was so good, and she absolutely loved it. So this, by far, the best issue, Mind, Mood, and Memory, July. I'd have people go buy it if they could. Otherwise, not subscribe to every month of it. But in any case, let's talk about it. Recent research identifies 15 factors that can affect how quickly or slowly changes in brain health and thinking skills can occur. And I know we've talked about 6 of the key elements. They're all included in here. We have a online course called 6 Factors of Long-Term Brain Health. And in it, we talk about exercise. Well, guess what they're saying here? Physical activities. We talk about the importance of socialization. And by golly, have I done so many sessions on that. And even to the point now, there's an article in here on how to do it even better, even during periods of isolation. We've talked about sleep, importance of getting your sleep in order, and what things you may need to do in times of that. We've talked about the importance of mental challenges, which is what we do with the USA Memory Championship. And so inside our 6 key factors of mental health, here we come along with this mind, mood, and memory, and they've added 9 more, if you want to think about it, and some of the things that they've added were interesting. So let's go through blood pressure. I'm seeing more and more elements in terms of blood pressure and what blood pressure does in constricting our vessels, and then obviously having an impact on the blood flow that we have that goes to our brain. If we realize that our brain is using 20 to 25% of our oxygen levels, then my goodness, if we start to contract our blood vessels, my goodness. And that brought a different article I read in a different newsletter about the importance of not being angry and what angry can do and why it provokes a heart attack or a stroke. And that as you get angry, you you squeeze your blood vessels. My goodness. And here we go, blood pressure, which then adds to cholesterol. Your cholesterol levels have an impact in terms of the quality of blood that's going into your brain. And you have to realize, right, your brain is using that blood to keep its axons, neurons, dendrites, all of the different chemistry up in your brain. Is amazing when they think of all of the chemistry that exists in one human being and how blood pressure and cholesterol can make a difference. Diabetes, weight, right? How much do we weigh? Alcohol use, and this is a pendulum that goes back and forth. Alcohol use, well, 1 glass of wine, maybe 2 for men, 1 glass for women. Alcohol use, we don't want to over-excess it. What is it? Long-term alcohol use do? I'm sure if any of you have ever known somebody who was an alcoholic, you've seen what they look like by age 55 or 60 and what their life expectancies are. Smoking, smoking, well, we going to do the vaping, or we just do smoke. The good news for me is I've never smoked in my whole life, so that's okay. And I don't have to worry about that one. But smoking, again, constricting our blood flow and our oxygen levels. More and more important, if we understood the heart, that's the connection of the heart to the brain, right? How do we getting our blood through our heart, keeping us alive? It's also going and being used by our brain to keep us mentally fit. Depressive moods, and I talk about stress and how we handle stress and what excessive stress does to us, and getting angry or being stressed or being anxious. Read several articles about the combination of those and what they do to our body's immune systems and things of that sort. Inflammation, right? We get this kind of trying to think of it's not A1C, it's the CRP, active C-reactive protein, and whether or not it's showing you have inflammation within your bloodstreams. Again, all of these things that connect to your bloodstream and your blood test results all have an impact on your mental fitness. Pollution exposure. Now, this is a new one. I've read several articles recently on if you're outside exercising, do not do it near highways where there's a lot of truck traffic, a lot of car traffic, a lot of bus traffic. Pollution, again, all of these things are impacting your breathing and your blood flow, and recognizing that 20% of the oxygen we breathe is used by your brain. So they're beginning to make more widespread connections to some of these things. Your hearing, can you hear well? And I've read a few articles on hearing, but that you got to put that one up there. Sleep, we know what happens during sleep. I've done a number of sessions on sleeping and what sleep does to us in terms of can you get a good night's rest, especially in that 3-hour period where you go into deep sleep and where you're cleaning the toxins out that exist within your brain. And so therefore, what kind of sleep are you getting that lets the brain clean out the toxins? Socialization, my goodness, I've talked about that so many times, and isolation, loneliness, and boy, did COVID really smack us, right in the face with that one. And I will expand on the article at a future Live with Tony when it talks about here the conversations that are key to cognitive fitness. We'll certainly put that one up as its own lesson because it just continues to be written about and published and helping people get out, and that does more of the how-to we'll cover. Your nutritional habits, we certainly know that what you're, and I don't like to use the word diet because diet people think, well, I have to lose weight, I'm going to be on a diet, and that's temporary, I'll lose the weight and go back to whatever. I think of it as nutritional habits. What are you doing in terms of your nutritional habits that keep you well, that you want to do for the long term? And we could go on and on with just nutrition for an hour and just talking about the different kinds of foods and proteins and fats and physical activity. My goodness, number 14 on the list is physical activity. What is it we're doing in terms of movement, and that's impact that we're moving, and how many steps are we getting? And we've got the counters, but what's important is you're moving. And then, as I've read several times and talked to, 5 minutes before bedtime or, after dinner, take a 5 or 10 minute walk and let that process through the sugars through your bloodstream so it gets to the right department in your body, and that helps with the impacts of reducing diabetes. And so physical activity. And then, of course, education. What is your education level? And it doesn't mean your education level has to be stopped. I saw a woman on TV yesterday, Stanford University, got her master's degree, and she's over 100 years old. My goodness, when do we ever need to stop learning? We're capable of learning at any age. My goodness, I've worked with people in senior groups, I've worked in assisted living centers, we've worked with people at any age, and by God, we're all capable of learning. And yet so much research comes back to, well, as we get older, we're just going to slow down. And I'm like, I look at Jim Carroll, one of my colleagues in his 70s, and I look at what Jim is doing and what his capabilities are as just one example of people. I've looked at clients that we've worked with in their 70s and see the difference that they've been able to make in their lives by practicing memory skills and learning how to read books and doing things and studying, going to museums and just continuing to grasp information that helps them to grow and learn. We call it learning to learn. And so here are the 15 things that help to manage the risk factors that lead to accelerated brain aging. And so all I would ask you to do is just re-listen to this, and I'll go through them one more time, but just re-listen and ask yourself, am I at least doing one thing that I'm aware of that impacts each of these? And the article goes on, and I'll expand on it again. I think I'm going to probably use this particular issue for the next 2 weeks, at least, maybe on and off. But blood pressure, your cholesterol, your diabetes, your weight. Hold on a second, let me get that. Hi, hello, good morning. Could you just hold for a second? Okay. All right, there you have it. Diabetes, weight, alcohol use, smoking, depressive moods, inflammation, pollution exposure, hearing, sleep, socialization, diet, physical activity, and education. Have a good day. We're off and going. Take a look at each of those and see if there's one thing you can be doing. We'll see you on Wednesday.